Welcome everyone, and thanks so much for being with us today as part of our elected officials video series. My name is Meredith Craig, and I'm the Director of Healthcare Policy for the Ohio Chamber of Commerce. I'm happy to be joined today by Ohio Senator Theresa Gavarone, who is also our Ohio Senate Majority Whip. Senator, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, we're going to dive right into it as we have a lot of questions underway. So,
Very good.
Senator, you're serving your first full term in the Ohio Senate, but public service is not new to you. What led you to run for public office?
Well, thank you. I actually practiced law. I've been an attorney for many years, and in my law practice, I was seeing a lot of things with the drug addiction crisis and the lack of access to mental health resources. And when a spot opened up in the Ohio House, I was weighing the pros and cons. I think, you know what? I could have a bigger impact in Columbus on these issues. So that's the reason I sought that seat, and was really happy when I won my first election. And it's been just an honor to work on these issues.
Great. Well, as we've mentioned, public service is not new to you. During your tenure in public service, what accomplishment sticks out to you the most that you feel honored to have been through and pushed through?
It's been really exciting. In my law practice, I did general practice law, and also mother of 3 kids and business owner, wear many hats. But during all that experience really has led me to be excited about a lot of different issues. And I've been thrilled to work on a number of them and get things across the finish line, but very excited to pass a lot of legislation dealing with mental health and drug addiction, but also election integrity. Very different fields, but election integrity, I think, goes to the very core of our democracy and republic.
Yeah, well, great. Well, one of the things I know that we've been working with you on is, as you've talked about a little bit, the mental health crisis here in the state. So, As we all know, this remains the governor's top priority, is addressing and combating the mental health crisis here. Your legislation, Senate Bill 60, tries to get at the behavioral health shortage, provider shortage we have in the workforce here in the state of Ohio. The Chamber's been with you on that and supportive of that measure, but tell us a little bit, what is the state facing right now in terms of our behavioral health provider shortage, and what does this legislation do to help address that?
The mental health crisis, access to medical resources, has really been a top priority of mine. And the Certified Mental Health Assistant Bill, Senate Bill 60, really is intended to expand the pool of medical professionals who are able to treat people with mental health issues. So the way it works is, this is a new licensed mental health professional called a Certified Mental Health Assistant, a CMHA, who is really an extender from a doctor. So a doctor would still need to make the initial diagnosis and see that patient initially, but the Certified Mental Health Assistant would be able to kind of take over with a continuum of care. So if someone's maybe stabilized with anxiety or depression, the CMHA would be able to continue prescribing and seeing that patient more regularly, then freeing up the psychiatrist to take on new patients for diagnosis, assessment, and getting people stabilized, really expanding the pool and creating greater access to professionals across the state where we really need them. There's a shortage of psychiatrists right now, and if we can find a new professional who is trained specifically in mental health issues, they can prescribe and help patients through this difficult time, we're all going to be better off.
Yeah, it's great. It's certainly an issue that the Chamber is going to continue to work towards, and again, appreciate your leadership on that issue.
Thank you so much, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate your support on it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So in February, you introduced legislation to establish the Election Integrity Office within the Office of the Secretary of State. In addition to that, you also wrote a bill called the Data Act. Why did you introduce these bills, and how do they really get to the root of maintaining a strong electoral system here in the state of Ohio?
Well, it's important. Again, election integrity, the way our elections are run, really goes to the core of our republic. We need to make sure that voters in Ohio have confidence that our elections are run correctly, that their vote is being counted correctly, and we need to make sure we're constantly looking at our laws and making sure that we are continually improving. Even one case of voter fraud is too many. So the Election Integrity Division really would allow the Secretary of State's office and this division to investigate allegations of voter fraud. There are too many times I'm hearing that these kind of cases and allegations don't get prosecuted. If we can focus on investigating those and making sure we're doing things right, we're going to be better off. And that'll also create greater confidence. And the Data Act, Senate Bill 71, also working on with the Secretary of State's office, really creates greater transparency. We're one of the very few bottom-up states. There are 88 counties, 88 county board of elections that do things, a little differently. And this would put everyone on the same playing field. Comparing apples to apples, we would define certain terminology the same way under this bill, making sure we're all speaking the same language, we're all talking about the same things. The dates are always the same across the different county boards of elections, and this information is put into a database, a centralized database, so that people can better analyze that data, creating greater transparency and access to this information, which again is really important in making sure we're doing things right and also allowing the public to do their own data analysis with everyone speaking the same language, and access to that information is going to be really important.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Again, appreciate your leadership on both of those issues.
Thank you so much.
So the Chamber continues to focus on reducing regulatory restrictions on business to help improve workforce. You have, again, championed legislation, Senate Bill 74, to address these such things. So talk a little bit more about how you're going to continue to fight to eliminate government inefficiencies, and just explain a little bit of what's in that bill and what you continue to do moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, when it comes to inefficiency, regulatory inefficiencies, I'm a small business owner, and we need to make sure we have a state that's inviting to business, where people can come, understand the regulations, they make sense. As a business owner, I understand the impact of streamlining the process, and also as vice chair of JCAR, working with JCAR for many years. Last year, we unveiled Cut Red Tape Ohio, which allows average people who are seeing regulations. I can't tell you how many times over the years I've heard someone complain about a regulation. This doesn't make sense. This gives them a platform where they can go on, and they don't even need to know the number of the regulation or the rule. They can describe it, and the JCAR staff will get on it, do the research, communicate with them, and if we can cut it, we can cut it. If we need to make sure that the rules we do have in place that impact each and every one of us, that they make sense, and that they're really necessary. And if we can cut unnecessary red tape, all the better. And I was really excited to see that a former constituent of mine got the first regulation modified due to his reaching out under Cut Red Tape Ohio.
Oh, that's great.
I was really excited to get that news and to share that with him as well. But Senate Bill 74, working with the Treasurer's Office, making sure we're streamlining things. We cut about 50 code sections and many pages out of the revised code by just streamlining the process, using modern efficiencies, making sure we're doing things right. It's just another example of good government, when we can take a look at what we're doing, what makes sense, how do we streamline the process, how do we make it easier for people. And I think it's really important work, and I was really happy to team up with the treasurer on that.
Yeah, well, that's great. Again, we're right there beside you, working towards that same goal. So thank you. So as we wrap up, what else would you like to share with us today that you're working on and pursuing, and how can the Chamber and the business community help you in those endeavors?
Oh, thank you very much. Well, just last week I introduced Senate Resolution 155. And I think it's really important, basically, really reaffirming our commitment to consumer choice when it comes to vehicles, and urging, President Biden to really ensure that the technology is feasible, that the economics of this works for average people, and to really think about that when the U.S. EPA is talking about mandating or prohibiting certain types of vehicle technology. It's really important. The cost of electric vehicles, the burden on the grid, all of those things, those need to be considered. And certainly I'm not in favor of mandates or prohibitions when it comes to vehicles. And this legislation is aimed at that.
Great. Well, anything else before we wrap up today that you'd like to share?
Well, I want to thank the Chamber for all the good work you do, really bringing those business issues to light and making sure that we are focusing on our business community when we are passing legislation and working on things. Because as a business owner, I know the impact all these different pieces of legislation we work on can have on our businesses. And it's important to have the Ohio Chamber at the forefront and reminding everyone that these are the impacts you can expect with some of those. So thank you for your good work.
Of course, and obviously your perspective being a small business owner, that's tremendous in the advocating that we do across the street. So we want to thank you for your leadership and your partnership. And I want to thank you all for tuning in today. Appreciate everything and all of our listeners that you do for us and the Chamber. And with that, have a great day.